The emergence I have just received confirmation from 3 separate, independent observatories. An object we have been tracking for months has accomplished the impossible. And frankly, I am not certain we are prepared for what follows. Before we start, I need a favor from you. Comment your city name below and tell me. Have you witnessed anything unusual in the night sky lately? Unexplainable lights, patterns that make no sense, or silences where there should be sound. NASA and various international agencies are quietly gathering these reports, and your observation might be far more significant than you realize. What I am about to share with you could fundamentally shift how you view humanity's place in the cosmos. I'm a theoretical physicist. I have dedicated my entire career to the edges of known science, string theory, quantum mechanics, the very mathematics that govern the universe. I have stood before the equations describing dark matter, black holes, and the life cycles of stars. I believed I had seen the deepest mysteries of the universe written in the language of physics. But decades of research did nothing to prepare me for what occurred 3 weeks ago when 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗏, an interstellar object we have been monitoring since it entered our system, defied every law we thought ruled reality. It didn't send a signal into space. It sent one into our ocean. Let me take you back to the start. Astronomers picked up an anomaly moving through our solar system at extraordinary speeds. We named it 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗏, the third confirmed visitor from beyond our stars. The first was 𝗍𝗏𝗍𝗍, that strange cigar-shaped guest that accelerated in ways we still can't fully justify. The second was Borisov, which at least behaved like a comet we recognized. But 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗏 was different from the moment it appeared. Its trajectory was wrong. Not just odd wrong. It moved with intent, making micro-corrections that natural objects simply do not make. Tiny adjustments, barely visible, but present, as if it were being steered, as if it were searching for something that we tracked it for months. The scientific community was alive with speculation, though publicly we stayed cautious. We have learned to be careful with extraordinary claims. Data flowed to NASA, the European Space Agency, and observatories in Russia, China, and Japan. Everyone was watching. Then, 17 days ago, as 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗏 passed within 0.4 astronomical units of Earth, roughly 40 million kilometers, it braked. Let me be very clear about what I mean by slowed down. Interstellar objects do not decelerate near planets unless gravity captures them. Our gravitational field is nowhere near strong enough to impact something moving at that velocity. Yet, 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗏 shed nearly 8% of its speed over just 14 hours. The energy required to execute that maneuver without visible propulsion is mind-boggling. We are discussing technology that makes our most advanced spacecraft look like stone tools. Then it rotated 42 degrees on its axis, aiming one specific face toward Earth, specifically toward the Pacific Ocean. That is when the deep-sea monitoring stations caught the signal. You have to understand something about the ocean floor. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the deepest trenches of our own seas, the abyssal plains, the hadal zones. These are some of the most unexplored regions on Earth. We do have research stations down there, yes, seismic monitors, listening devices, equipment meant to study tectonic movements and underwater volcanoes. But they listen for other things, too, things we don't discuss in public. The signal that erupted from a spot in the Pacific, nearly 7,000 meters down, was not seismic. It wasn't geological. It was structured, mathematical, pulsing with a complexity that drained the color from our computer scientists' faces when they saw the initial readout. And here is what sent 3 separate governments into emergency classified sessions. The signal was answering 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗏. The object in the void was calling to something beneath our waves, and something down there was answering back. I received a classified briefing on a Tuesday morning. I was in my office at the City College of New York when the phone rang. A number I didn't know. The voice identified itself as calling on behalf of a joint NASA and NOAA task force. They needed me on a secure video conference in 30 minutes. When I logged in, I saw faces I knew: oceanographers, astrophysicists, linguists, cryptographers, military brass. Everyone looked drained. Someone had clearly been working straight through the night. The data they displayed was extraordinary. The transmission from 𝗢𝗚𝗚𝗚𝗚 was a series of electromagnetic pulses in the extremely low frequency range, something capable of penetrating ocean water effectively. But the pattern is what stunned us. It began with prime numbers, the universal calling card of intelligence, the same way we have tried to signal extraterrestrials. But then it evolved into something far more sophisticated. Fractal patterns, quantum states encoded in the pulse timing, and information density suggesting that whoever or whatever was transmitting possessed a grasp of physics that surpassed our current models. And the reply from the ocean floor matched it perfectly, like two halves of an ancient conversation picking up after an impossibly long silence. One of the oceanographers, a woman from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, pulled up sonar imaging of the source region. At first glance, it looked like a seamount, an underwater mountain. Nothing strange. But then she showed us the processed images, where they had filtered out sediment and natural rock. Beneath layers of mineral deposits and biological material lay a structure, geometric, too precise to be natural. Roughly 3 kilometers across, partially buried in the seafloor, but unmistakably artificial. "How long has that been there?" someone asked. The oceanographer's voice was barely a whisper. "Based on biological growth patterns and sediment accumulation rates, the minimum estimate is 65 million years. 65 million years. The exact time frame of the 𝗃𝗵𝗄𝗏 extinction event, the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. Except now we had to ask, was it an asteroid? Or is it something else? Something that slammed into the ocean floor and went dormant, waiting for a signal from space to wake it up? I've spent my career contemplating advanced civilizations and the Kārdašev scale, which ranks civilizations by energy consumption. Type 1 harnesses their planet. Type 2 harnesses their star. Type 3 harnesses their galaxy. Humanity is currently around a 0.7 on that scale. We haven't even reached Type 1. But if something built that structure 65 million years ago, and it is still functional, still speaking to interstellar objects, we are dealing with a civilization so far beyond us that we might be incomprehensible to them. Not as enemies, not even as primitives, but as something like bacteria. Biologically interesting, perhaps, but irrelevant to their actual goals. The briefing dragged on for 3 hours. Theories flew around the virtual room. Some suggested it was an ancient monitoring station, that Earth has been under surveillance for eons. Others proposed something darker, that the structure was a marker, a beacon claiming this planet, quarantining it, or setting it aside for purposes we cannot begin to fathom. The most disturbing theory came from a SETI researcher. He suggested that what we were witnessing wasn't a message between two different intelligences, but a single distributed intelligence checking in with itself. That 𝗢𝗚𝗚𝗚𝗏 and the ocean structure were components of the same vast system, a network spanning star systems, maybe galaxies, and that we have been living on a node of that network without ever knowing it. Think about the implications. Every step of human evolution, every civilization we have built, every thought we've had about our uniqueness and our special place in the cosmos, all of it potentially happening on a planet that was already occupied, already serving a function in some incomprehensible galactic architecture. Then, something happened that I still can't fully process. On the 4th day of the exchange, the signal changed. The pattern from 𝗢𝗚𝗚𝗚𝗏 grew more complex, and the ocean structure responded in kind. Our cryptographers worked feverishly to decode it. Late that night, one of them, a brilliant young woman from MIT, ran into the operations center with printouts covered in math. She had found something. Embedded in the signal was what looked like a schematic. Not of technology, exactly, but of space-time itself. It was showing us how to fold dimensional space in ways our current physics deems impossible. Shortcuts through the universe. Not faster-than-light travel in the traditional sense, but something more elegant. Paths through reality that bypass the limitations of distance entirely. We were being shown how they move between stars. And more than that, we were being shown that we have been living in a universe full of hidden doors, and we never knew to look for them. But here's what terrified me most. Along with the schematic was a sequence our linguists interpreted as a question. It is hard to translate when you share no common reference points, but the mathematical structure implied an inquiry, a probe for data. And the question, as best we can understand it, was this: has it emerged yet? Has what emerged? They're asking about something. Something they expected to happen here. Something they've been waiting for, that I spent that night staring at my ceiling, unable to sleep, running through every possibility. What could a civilization millions of years ahead of us be waiting for on Earth? What could be significant enough to leave a monitor here for 65 million years? And then it hit me. They aren't monitoring the planet. They are monitoring us, humanity. Or more specifically, they are monitoring for something humanity might become. Consider the timeline. 65 million years ago, the dominant life on Earth was wiped out. The structure arrived at that exact moment. In the aftermath, mammals rose. Primates evolved. Eventually, impossibly recently in geological terms, we emerged. Homo sapiens, a species that went from stone tools to quantum computers in a cosmic blink of an eye. A species that developed consciousness, self-awareness, art, science, philosophy, all within a few tens of thousands of years. What if that wasn't natural? What if the structure didn't just watch evolution but guided it? Influenced it through subtle manipulations over millions of years to create conditions for a specific outcome? We might be the experiment. The entire human species, everything we have built, everything we think we chose, might be part of a process initiated by an intelligence so vast we cannot even perceive its edges. The signal exchange lasted 9 more days. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. 𝗂 adjusted its trajectory and continued its path out of our solar system, accelerating in that impossible way, leaving our instruments behind, returning to whatever deep space mission it has been conducting for eons. The ocean structure fell silent. Our monitoring equipment shows it is still there, still functional, but dormant again. Waiting, the task force has been officially disbanded. Publicly, this never happened. The data is classified at levels that make top secret look quaint. The few dozen people who know the full story have been asked, not ordered but asked, to remain silent while scientific institutions and governments try to figure out what any of this means. That I have spent the last week in meetings with people far above my clearance level, discussing implications ranging from the theological to the existential. But here is what I cannot stop thinking about. That question, has it emerged yet? It suggests they are waiting for a specific threshold, a transition, a moment when whatever they seeded, guided, or manipulated finally reaches the state they have been expecting. What if that moment is now? What if humanity, in our current state of rapid technological explosion, our development of artificial intelligence, our tentative steps toward becoming a spacefaring species, our growing grasp of quantum mechanics and consciousness itself, what if we are approaching the emergence they have been waiting for? And what happens when we cross that threshold? Does a galaxy welcome us? Quarantine us? Harvest us? Judge us? I look at the night sky differently now. I think about those hidden doors in space-time, those pathways between stars. I think about networks of intelligence spread across distances we can barely measure, operating on timescales that make our entire civilization a momentary flicker. I think about that structure sitting on the ocean floor, silent now, but listening, always reporting back to something we cannot even begin to comprehend. There's a philosophical question I have pondered my entire career. Are we alone in the universe? I always believed the answer was no, that the sheer scale of the cosmos made it mathematically improbable for us to be the only conscious beings. But I imagined first contact differently. I imagined equals meeting, exchanging ideas, learning from one another. I never imagined this. The slow, creeping realization that we have never been alone, that we have been observed and possibly shaped by forces that view us the way we might view a petri dish culture that is finally producing interesting results. The optimist in me wants to believe we are on the verge of something magnificent, that whatever emergence is being waited for represents humanity's graduation into a larger galactic community, that all our struggles, our growth, our slow, painful climb toward wisdom, that it has all been leading somewhere meaningful. But the physicist in me knows that nature is indifferent to our hopes. Evolution does not care about fairness or meaning. It only cares about what survives. And if we are part of some vast experiment, there is no guarantee we will like the results when the experiment concludes. That I am reminded of something I once wrote about consciousness, that it might be the universe's way of knowing itself. If that is true, then perhaps we are not separate from whatever intelligence has been watching us. Perhaps we are a part of it, a localized expression of something much larger, finally reaching the point where we can recognize ourselves as part of that greater whole. Or perhaps we're something else entirely. Something unexpected, even by the standards of beings who can traverse galaxies and manipulate the fabric of space-time. Perhaps the real emergence is not what they are expecting at all. The channel of communication remains open. Technically, we have equipment aimed at that spot in the Pacific, listening constantly. We are tracking every object that enters our solar system with new urgency, new understanding. We are preparing for the possibility that 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗏 might return, or that something else might arrive. And next time, the conversation might not stay beneath the ocean surface. Follow this channel as we continue decoding the universe's final warnings. Because I believe we are approaching a moment of profound transformation, whether we are ready or not. What happens next may determine not just humanity's future, but our right to have a future at all. So, I will leave you with the question that keeps me awake at night. The question I hope you will consider carefully and share your thoughts on in the comments below. If we are the emergence they have been waiting for, if humanity is on the verge of some cosmic metamorphosis that will determine our place in a universe far stranger and more populated than we ever imagined, then what are we becoming? And more importantly, what will we find waiting for us when we finally become it?